Welcome back. All right, so as I had expected, 3 news of the day videos today. It'll be interesting to see how these work tomorrow because I'm getting on an airplane. We're going to Los Angeles to watch 2 concerts. So we get into LA on Friday. We get there in the afternoon. There's a concert at night. Then there's a concert on Saturday and early Sunday morning. We're back on a plane and headed back. So it's going to be a busy, compact couple of days. So I'll try to get videos in where I can. I'm not planning on taking the whole setup this time. I'm just taking the phone for recording and uploading videos. So we'll see how it goes. But with this news video, which is likely going to be the last video I do today, let us discuss other events from today's very eventful day. So Elias Lindholm, excited to play with Huberdeau and Toffoli. This is the line it looks like it's going to replace Lindholm playing between Gaudreau and Tkachuk. So a lot of pressure on these guys. But if you're a Flames fan, you're certainly hoping by the end of the month there's no complaints about, boy, it's not the same without Gaudreau and Tkachuk. The Flames, of course, high expectations coming into this season, and those have been helped along by the moves made by Brad Treliving, who also, when asked about winning the summer, said, I'm more concerned about winning in the winter. I don't really care about winning in the summer. I'm paraphrasing, but yeah, he's right. It really is important to win in the summer. I would also correct, it's important to win in the spring. If you win games all the way through until middle of March and then all of a sudden things fall apart, people aren't going to pay as much attention to having won in the winter. So it's just one of those things. As autumn has just begun, of course. Pekka Rinne. So the reason I'm wearing Nashville gear, Pekka Rinne is back with the Nashville Predators organization. Obviously, he's retired as a player, but he's back as a special advisor. So for the alumni, and we'll see how this goes and if this grows into a larger role. Interestingly enough, he was Finland's goaltending coach at the World Junior Championships, where they won silver in August. So I think this is a good move by the Nashville Predators to bring Pekka Rinne in. He'll take part in alumni activities. He will certainly be interacting with the press. Very popular player locally. I think that's a win for the Nashville Predators. And so I agree with that completely. Now, before a player goes on LTIR, they do go through a process before it's allowed. One of those processes is, of course, going through a physical. Mike Smith has failed that physical and is now going to go on to LTIR for the Edmonton Oilers as expected. He's not expected to play at all this season. And so for Mike Smith playing out his contract, or, well, sitting out his contract, I guess, yeah, this is just what was expected for the Oilers. We will be seeing Jack Campbell, likely Skinner there as the backup. And we'll see how things shake out for the Edmonton Oilers. I keep seeing people saying, oh, Campbell's just a backup. Campbell's just a backup. He's not, though, but okay. Anyways, Evgeny Malkin. So Malkin, a player that you want to see healthy if you're a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, and right now he says he is. And he's also in shape. So he's good to go. He's in shape. He feels healthy. He missed last year's training camp. He also missed a lot of the season going through problems with his knee. And he says his knee feels good this year. He isn't going to be 100% certain on it until we get into game situations, and we're talking regular season game situations because those are different. But he says right now he's optimistic about it. He feels like it's pretty good, and so we'll see how things go for him. San Jose Sharks, some news with them today. So earlier in the day, it came out that Czechia, or Czech Republic, however you want to look at it, was saying they're not going to have Russian-born players in Czech, which is fine. But the NHL's opening its season in Prague, and they're basically saying we won't let the Russian players play. They've not been granting visas to Russians, so they're not going to let them play. When Mike Grier was asked about this, he says either all of us play or none of us play. So there are a couple of Russians in each lineup for San Jose and Nashville. And so we'll see what Nashville has to say about it as well. I haven't seen anything from Nashville yet. But, I mean, if the country says no, the country said no. And so, I mean, do they then pay a fine if that takes place? Do they not let the game happen? So it'll be interesting to see what happens there, and you know how things turn out. So that being said, that's something that's a couple of weeks down the road. And again, it's got to be a nightmare for the NHL, and I'm sure that what Grier said is going to cause an effect beyond that. So we'll see, but. In Toronto, because you've got to have Toronto discussion, and hey, there's a lot of Toronto discussion that happens on websites because, you know, I know you get a lot of clicks, but Toronto's also really interesting at this point, so I don't really mind it so much. So Ilya Samsonov, his first day with his teammates here, and saying, it's been said he turned down more money elsewhere, also more term, in order to sign in Toronto. And once signed with Toronto, goaltending coach Curtis Sanford actually went down to Florida and worked with him over the summer. So he was in Florida. He was with Igor Shesterkin as well, which is good, right? Shesterkin, arguably the best goaltender in the NHL. And so this is good. If Samsonov has a big bounce back year and he wanted to sign a 1 year, I'm going to prove myself kind of deal, this is good. And he also feels like he's going to have an opportunity to start a lot of games. And it's already been said that Toronto's going to have a battery of Murray and Samsonov, and it's not going to be one over the other necessarily. Think of it like the Islanders model, right? Where it's you just every other game you switch out the goaltender. We'll see how long that goes for with Toronto and if that's really truly how they approach it. But Samsonov saying all the right things, and he is young enough to have that bounce back for Toronto. And if Toronto's going to be a contending team and get to that next level, either Murray has to get his game back or Samsonov has to get his game back. They can't afford for both of them to have struggles again, so we'll see if Samsonov's the guy. In media relations and media day stuff, so media day was yesterday. There's a lot of media talk today, so it's just basically players sit down and they have the big press conferences, every team having press conferences, so I'm doing my best to keep up with all of it. But Blake Wheeler, interesting, out of Winnipeg, he's trying to stay positive, and he is staying positive about things in Winnipeg and saying all the right things about being a leader. And it's interesting because he did lose the captaincy. It was taken away from him. It's rare that takes place, and it's really rare that a player loses the captaincy and we don't see either that player get traded or trade rumors that follow them forever after that, right? Or in the case of Dustin Brown, there were trade rumors for a couple years and then they kind of went away. But yeah, Wheeler's staying positive, and we'll see how things turn out for him with the Jets, and if he finishes the season with Winnipeg. Bonus, taking complete ownership of the captaincy change, and I think that's good for Bonus to say, yep, that was my call. News out of Colorado. So I mentioned this morning that Lehkonen was playing on a line with McKinnon and Rantanen. Turns out that's because Landeskog isn't skating. He's not skating right now. He's likely to miss the start of the season. They're staying kind of mum on what it is other than a lower body injury. Good news for Colorado fans. Sam Girard practiced today. Looks like he's going to be able to start the season for them on the blue line. That's good news considering how scary Girard's injury looked at the time that it took place. Speaking of failed physicals from earlier in the video, Andrew Ladd has failed the physical, according to Craig Morgan out of Arizona there. Failed the physical with the Coyotes, and he's going to be placed on LTIR. And it's kind of too bad because Ladd had a little bit of a bounce-back season. I say a little bit because he's not back to being what he was, say, 5-10 years ago. But Ladd had a bit of a bounce-back year, and now he's on LTIR. So we'll see how long he's on there. Of course, that means that there's extra cap space for a team that might have a contract they want to get rid of that maybe Arizona could take on. We'll see how quickly that takes place this year. Considering how many teams are having cap problems, Arizona could really make out well this year when it comes to trades. Minnesota Wild news. So Bill Guerin, when asked about the Kaprizov situation and trying to get him into the U.S., admitting they were worried. So he had a lapsed visa, which a lot of players apparently played with last year. There's a lot of backups, so they were just not worried about the lapsed visa. And this time around they were. So he had to get the visa again, but they got him in, and they were very glad to have done so. And so everything's positive right now in Minnesota when it comes to Kaprizov in that situation. But they were worried that they might not be able to get him out at one point there. Both Evison and Guerin admitting to that. So it worked out. Kaprizov's in the U.S. He's going to play for Minnesota this year, and good on him. One thing out of today's practices, and this shouldn't have to be said, but Igor Shesterkin smashed his stick against the glass behind the net because he was run into a couple of times, and he got up kind of on the limp after one of those. Just a comment to New York Ranger players, whether you're a veteran, whether you're a prospect, whoever you are, and what kind of job you're trying to earn with the team, do not collide with Igor Shesterkin. Just don't. And it's hopefully it's just day one, and it's not going to end up being a big deal. Hopefully he didn't get hurt, but we do see players get hurt in training camp. We do see players get hurt in preseason. And obviously, if you're the New York Rangers, you cannot afford to lose Shesterkin. You just can't. There's no situation where losing Igor Shesterkin, we could look back and say, the best thing that happened to the Rangers this year was losing Shesterkin for the first couple months of the year for something that happened in training camp. So let's just not. No colliding with Igor if you're New York Rangers. Maybe put a stop sign just on his chest right there, or put one on his top of his mask and put one on his back. Just cover him in stop signs. Because again, for the New York Rangers, their Stanley Cup aspirations really do have everything to do with Shesterkin. Advanced stats would tell you last year that the Rangers could have lost a lot of games that Shesterkin bailed them out of. And so assuming that he can do that again is one of the reasons why I think the Rangers are a contender this year. I don't expect their advanced stats to be as bad as last year, and I do expect Shesterkin to be pretty much just as good. And then that to me makes him a contender. But we shall see. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.